G'day, mate. Welcome to Dyson Sphere with me, Jitty, and this one's a little bit of a different video, very much a different video. This is something I've been looking forward to since like February, basically, right when Dyson Sphere came out. Well, some back history, and one of the reasons why I'm doing this video. So when Dyson Sphere came out, it went to Kickstarter. We all know that. It had a very, very successful Kickstarter, and then jumped into Steam Early Access very, very quickly. And during the first couple of weeks, they did say that they were going to do a roadmap, and then the roadmap was pushed back to, we'll announce it after Chinese New Year, because, look, don't get me wrong, the devs were busy, they were super hardworking, they were pumping out very important, major updates all the way through to Chinese New Year, and even after Chinese New Year. They got a lot of fundamental things done, like the mass deconstruct and all that sort of stuff, all done prior to Chinese New Year, which I understand in China is a very, very big special holiday. You know, the whole country basically shuts down for a week, which is fine. And they promised there would be a channel update after Chinese New Year. A roadmap. They'd actually publish a roadmap. And it's taken us through till, well, this says the 28th of April, which is like 6 days ago. But it only showed up on Steam, well, about an hour and a half ago. So I have no idea how Steam calculates days and times and stuff. But I literally got a notification 57 minutes ago. Anyway, what I want to talk about is this update, this roadmap, because although I'd love to see a long-term roadmap for Dyson Sphere, I understand because it's early access, because it's a small dev team, because it was a much bigger success than they probably had ever dreamed. There's probably a lot more work and a lot of things that they didn't consider beforehand that they're now having to consider now. Now the game's a lot more successful than what they thought. So that and mods have really proven that there is a lot more in the game and a lot more quality of life things that need to be done. So with all that said, I want to cover very quickly the updated roadmap. And this is just going to cover May. So this is what they're having planned for May, which I got to admit, I'm definitely excited for, because there are some things in here that I would have loved to have had a month ago for my particular playthrough, so we didn't get down to like 10 FPS. Anyway, so, oh, and supposedly this will open up at when you open your Dyson Sphere, so your copy of Dyson Sphere. So maybe you've already seen this by the time you've watched this video. Anyway, updates coming in May. So they've recoded the construction system to bring in a new class main chain construction. What that basically means is they've rewritten and re-optimized the system to do basically what the mods are already like tacking onto the existing game engine. The ability, as we can see here, and I've actually got these blown up, so the ability to drag out different machines and affect the spacing between them, which I have to say, like, my first playthrough I did mostly on Twitch. I spent 200 hours, and we didn't get nearly what I'd done in 100 hours on the YouTube playthrough, because I had to do everything manually when I did it on Twitch. But when it came to YouTube, there were mods like this that existed, which meant I could put down things that much quicker and that much easier. So, major update there. And so they've rewritten 10,000 lines of code for the construction system. They've split the code of various construction methods. No idea what that means. They've reconsidered multiple construction previews. So the build preview collision, because the build preview collision is still weird, okay? It's still weird. It still has some quirks, okay? I've had it before I installed mods or anything, where I could put, like, you know, two rail ejectors way too close to one another just because the game let me. So I went, why not? And they've also optimized the detection of large scale constructions, which is very, very important, because I have to say, when I was dumping down big blueprints, yeah, the game would stop and think about it for just a second. So, the current progress of mass construction of single buildings, and then you can construct the intervals, so even every 3 buildings. Again, like, the English is not good. This is probably one of the reasons I'm doing this video. So, as we can see here, we have, you know, stack up as many buildings as possible, and then when the GIF resets, we can see that they've split it into groups of 3. So they're trying to fit them in between the grid sections. I don't know how that's going to work. I really don't know how that's going to work in game, because currently things have a dedicated spacing, and now it looks like things are actually getting squeezed together, which I'm all for. Like, if I can fit just a few more assemblers and a few more plants on a planet, I could have done 1,000 rockets. Well, I could probably do 1,000 rockets on a single planet. But, 2,000 was definitely too many. Split smelting off to another planet. Maybe I could get 2,000 rockets per minute on a single planet. Assuming my CPU doesn't die again. Anyway, so the other things that they've been doing is they've added the third level civilization. So a visual leaderboard in a common galaxy. One of their Kickstarter stretch goals, this function will be introed in its basic view in May. Players can use this function to check the power generation and other data of other players' Dyson spheres. Is it all? How will the system look? Let's wait and see. So it's an early preview. It's an early preview of like a global leaderboard. I like the idea. I like the concept. One of the things, like being if you haven't looked at it, Elite Dangerous lets you fly around the galaxy, basically visiting every star and every planet. Some of it's procedural generated, some of it's based off real data, but it lets you fly around a galaxy, and having, obviously not the exact same thing, but having something similar in Dyson Sphere sounds like a good idea. And it also means that you are going to have people that are going to be building the biggest. They're going to be rolling seeds. They're going to be making as many Dyson Spheres over as many stars as possible to get as much power generation to get themselves closer and closer and closer into the actual core of the Milky Way galaxy, which is going to be cool. It's going to be cool to have some sort of global leaderboards. It was one of the things that was sort of missing from Factorio. I know people tried to add it after the fact as like a web page with an API that sort of worked and sort of didn't. I didn't like the implementation there. Having it in game sounds like a great idea, because there is definitely, as both Factorio and Satisfactory, the two big factory games before Dyson Sphere, have really proven, there are a certain number of players that will build the biggest mega bases they can, ignoring what it does to their poor computer. And I'm probably one of that crowd. So yeah, we're gonna try and get ourselves right in the middle. But continuing down, so the universe planned by the engineers is actually part of the entire Milky Way galaxy. Every small dot in it represents every star cluster that Icarus has ever landed on. Everyone will participate in the birth of the third level civilization, which is gonna be cool. It's also gonna mean that it's gonna get more dots in it, as either one dot for every single save game you've ever got, every different series of save games, or whatever, or maybe it's 1 dot per player and they'll take your best base ever. I don't know, but it definitely means as the game sells more, as more people play the game, whether they play it the first time or the 10th time, it's going to mean more dots in the Milky Way galaxy, which means this is going to get brighter and brighter as time goes on, which will be really cool to see, I have to admit. Okay. So, we have foundation coloring functions. Players like to decorate the universe. Funnily enough, this is one of those things that was added? I don't even think it was added. It was added indirectly through the editor-only function in Factorio, and lots of people asked, why didn't you just add this to base game? And I have to admit, especially with Dyson Sphere, the ability to have big concrete letters I can stamp down around a planet with, well, just the bare basics, like, red science and green science, and, all the different science colors just stamped on the planet so I can find things quickly and easily, sounds like a great idea, especially if I can write it in concrete. I know you can write stuff with belts and put especially science packs on, or science jellies, whatever you want to call them, on the belts to give the belts a glow at night. That's very, very helpful for trying to see things from, orbit. But yeah, I would really, really like the ability to just stamp down on the concrete, stamp down some colored concrete to mark things out. Not so much for my viewing, but probably help you guys out more than myself when I'm doing my Let's Play. So on top of that, we have new types of planets, because that was one thing that was sorely missed from the game so far. You know, we have, what, 5 different variations? We've got the water world, we've got the foresty swamp world, which is actually really rare. I haven't seen that many of them. Same with the water world. We have plenty and plenty and plenty and plenty and plenty, and oh my god, I'm sick of them, desert planets, along with the arid moon-like planet. We've got the ice planet. Obviously, we've got the starting planet. So there's 6, 7, 8 different types of planets out there. Maybe I'm forgetting some. So yeah, more planet variety is definitely going to be a cool thing. I personally can't wait. I do like that they've given us a couple of different renders, and obviously this one's the one that's been circled. So let's zoom in a little bit. This one's been the one circled, which looks like it's ice. I'm going to go with ice. Ice and like desert. It's going to be cool. And then we have the B type, which looks like high mountains. So this may be somewhere you go to get soil pile. And again, you know, rather having lava or lava sticking through, they've just gone with like just a dead planet core. Again, really, really cool concept. I have no idea how to describe this. No idea at all. Looks a little bit like a gas giant to me, but maybe that'll change. We'll see. And then, of course, we have the D-type planet, which we've got 3 different choices for this one. And again, I don't know. It looks like some high plateaus, and then everything else is flat, which, again, could just be really cool to play on. I was going to say, especially if we couldn't remove these, and then instantly regretted that thought because I thought of cliffs in Factorio. Yes! Okay, so, continuing on. Multi-threading will be realized in the main logic to optimize the efficiency of the CPU. Loading in the late game. Really, really bad jarbled English, but basically they're going to be optimizing the crap out of it, which I really, really, really hope is going to have a major impact. So they say we've conducted a comprehensive analysis of a save game data that produces 10,800 universal matrices per minute, which in per second rate is 180, which is, what's that, divided by belts that do 30, 6 belts? 6 belts? 6 belts is pretty impressive, I have to say. I have no idea how slow their game got to, and I'm sort of curious how this particular base compared to my base, because my base was held up with not so much Dyson Spheres or Dyson Swarms, it was held up with just massive amounts of assemblers and everything else. So, yeah, they've taken the analysis of one particular save game and gone forth from there, and look at the CPU consumption of each logical part. And the following development step will use multi-threading to optimize these systems in sequence. So optimization, if you've been following Factorio or even Satisfactory for some time now, optimization is a slow ongoing process. In the case of Factorio, there was basically one dev who just handled optimizations and bug fixing, and that was his one job. And he was constantly adding and tweaking, and sometimes like spending a whole week writing out code to try and optimize something to work out that it didn't really optimize anything when actually implemented in the game. So being that it has such a small dev team, this is one that I'm hoping for the best. But I'm also a little bit concerned about how long it's going to take, especially as we've right back at the start, we've gone and rewritten 10,000 lines of code for the construction process, and basically updates haven't really appeared for the last couple of weeks. I think the last major update we had was like early April, where they changed it so when you deconstructed things that, you know, they fell out on the ground. Since then, it's basically been all of April that they've been doing this 10,000 lines of code. So optimizations, I wish them luck. I really hope that they succeed. But I also need to be realistic and accept that it might take a lot longer than what I'd like. So let's zoom in on this graph a little bit. And as you can see, this is Zoom in a little bit. There we go. There we go. Okay, so this is 100% of the pie, and this is the percent of CPU used doing all the different things. So splitters in this particular person's base, again, it's going to vary base to base to base, depending on how often you use splitters. Like in my particular playthrough, I don't think I used, like, apart from building that main bus that I really hated, I didn't use any splitters from that point on. And actually, if I go back to my original Twitch base, we sort of stumbled onto a challenge where I didn't use splitters at all. I think in the whole base over multiple stars and multiple planets, I used like 3 splitters total. So yeah, splitters. So yeah, we have the universe simulation. So that's pretty much going to be just background stuff, like you know, resources going down. All the planets rotating around the center of the universe, all that sort of stuff. So we then have the logistics drones, and vessels are over here. So this is the little drones, and again, it depends base to base to base. Maybe this person did everything with belts, whereas other people did everything with drones. Like I know originally I was doing everything on belts, and then when I moved to a second planet, I did everything with drones because I was just lazy. I admit it. And then we have conveyor cargo belts, which is using 10% of the CPU. Okay, so this is the really important number, the percentage. So universal simulation, doesn't matter. Splitters, doesn't matter in this particular basis case. The drones, 3%, again, really not a big thing. Belts, 10%. Belts are obviously important. Every single production line needs to have belts. Most of them need multiple belts. So that's something that could really, really, really matter and start making a really big performance. Because don't forget, if they can make it run 5 times faster, then you get an extra, 8% available CPU for this particular base. But on top of that, as you lay down more belts, it's also going to have less of an impact over time. Then we have the power system. The power system, that's actually a really lot for power. I didn't realize it would be quite so much, but then again, I guess between ray receivers, mini suns, fuel generators, the list goes on. There's going to be a lot of different power systems. Whereas in Factorio, for Factorio's sake, there's like 3. There is like, it burns, it's nuclear power, or it's solar power. That's it. And as for Satisfactory, who knows what their particular percentage usage of things are, but they've just simplified their power system where power plants just run at 100% at all times, which is probably simplifying things anyway. And then we have assemblers, which are using 16% of the CPU, so almost as much as power. And obviously you're going to have a lot more assemblers than you do power systems. So, getting an optimization here might have a much bigger impact than getting an optimization here. And then we have logistics vessels, which I'm willing to bet comes partly down to how smart or stupid they are. Unfortunately, logistics vessels, you would assume that they would go to... If you requested hydrogen from a gas giant, you would assume it would come from the closest gas giant. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, the way the logistics vessels work is it comes from the first tower that's available that has hydrogen. If that happens to be on the other side of the galaxy, that's where your hydrogen comes from first, which is a bit of a pain, to be honest. So obviously that needs an optimization for the way it sources materials, which may lower or increase this percentage, and then obviously it needs the optimization to bring down the amount of CPU used running the logistics vessels. Sorters are the really big ones, and same with Factorio. This is what the devs over at Factorio found, that their inserters were the biggest use of processing power basically forever. And once they got that optimized right the way down, where they're actually looking at how much data a Factorio inserter used and whether they could fit that data inside the cache of the CPU so it passed through quicker, pass through the CPU faster. That's the scale of optimization that some devs go to get the best out of their game and the best out of your hardware. And then we have other, which is 6%, which is like 1% of the CPUs being doing statistics. 1% is the player controller, so that's Icarus himself. 0.2 for the Dyson Sphere and 0.14 for the Dyson Swarm. And then we've got a 4% unknown overhead. Unknown overhead sounds really bad. Honestly, in the grand pie of things, doesn't really matter that much. So this is where a percentage of a CPU went running this particular base. Now, Dyson Sphere, as far as I've seen up until this point, runs on a single CPU. If they get it multi-core threaded, and, you know, in my case, I've got, what, 16 logical processors. So, in theory, my base would run 16 times faster if it can be multi-threaded across every single processor. Whether that happens or not is something we're going to find out, but that is the very next thing we're going to do. So, they've tested the core code on various types of CPUs and Windows 7 systems to ensure the compatibility of this update. I'm assuming they've also tested on Windows 10. Maybe they're testing on Windows 7 to ensure it's also compatible with Windows 7. But we can see that we have a 12, so that's a 6-core, 12-thread processor, another 612 with a both AMD and an Intel. We also have an Intel i7 over here with a 612 again, and one of these two. That one? No, that one is using just 6 threads, and these two are using 16 threads. So that's a Ryzen 7, which I'm out of date on the Ryzen stuff, so I think that's an old one. And then this one, I have no idea because it doesn't mention it, but I'm going to assume it's the Intel equivalent, okay, with 8 cores and 16 threads. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to this update. I'm looking forward to what the devs are going to do during May. I'm looking forward to these updates being done because right at the moment, like I finished my Dyson Sphere Let's Play. We did everything we could. We did 2,000 rockets per minute, and I had to end it because there was just nowhere to go. The computer, the game was just not going to get pushed any further. I did mention during my playthrough that if I could suddenly get a computer that was 8 times as fast, I could keep playing. And if they get these updates done, then technically my computer doesn't get 8 times faster. The game gets 8 times faster, which means I could either continue with the current Let's Play or more likely start again from scratch, which is definitely what I would do. So I'm waiting for these updates. I'm waiting to see what happens. I'm personally really, really excited about these updates, which all should come this month, which is really good. I'm like, I really hope they manage to get all these things done in May. In saying that, it's a 5-man dev team, and although they've worked really hard, and although they've come through with item after item after item, it's a lot to get done in a month. And I am probably the king of over promising and under delivering because I estimate how much time something's going to take, and then realize that I did not estimate nearly enough time. So I'm probably just as bad at this as they are. But yeah, I'm hoping for the best. But with all that said, I do invite you guys, if you watch all the way through the end of the video, to hit the like, hit the subscribe if you haven't already. I will be starting a new Let's Play when these updates start rolling out. I'm thinking, I can't decide whether we go all science or whether we go all rockets. It's a 50-50, half a dozen another. I would really like to get into a position where we could build a science planet and then scale it up, like really scale it up. And especially now that we have blueprints, that I can share. By the way, I am doing mod highlight videos in the meantime. There's been a couple on the channel. I might even link the current playlist down in the description, along with the playlist of my original modded Let's Play. I'll link both of those. Have a watch, especially the mod highlight videos, because the next one I'm going to be doing is definitely going to be covering blueprints, because one of the things I really waited for with Dyson Sphere was shareable blueprints, and now we have a mod that lets us share them. That's a start. Obviously, I'd like to see it in the base game, but it's a start. And obviously, with the devs doing these very first 2 updates, I can definitely see proper blueprints inside Dyson Sphere, hopefully this month. But with all that said, this is where I'm going to call it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Do hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the very next video. All right, bye.